This is Sarnia Lambton Daily for Thursday, April 2nd. Good evening, I'm Terry Doyle. To wear a mask or not to wear a mask? That is the question many people are asking these days as we deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. Local Medical Officer of Health Dr. Sadit Ranaday weighs in on the debate.
The general consensus right now around the use of masks by healthy people who have no symptoms is that it does not incrementally or significantly protect you from the risk of respiratory disease. That is for a few reasons. One is because masks are really designed to keep droplets out of, to hold on to droplets when they're being coughed out by people who are displaying symptoms. The other reason is that there's some thought that wearing a mask, especially when that is an unfamiliar thing, will result in more people touching their faces more often. And the third thing is that as we think about the resources that are needed in the healthcare system right now, each of those masks, especially if they're surgical masks or N95 masks, could potentially be used for a healthcare provider to deliver an essential service. So we certainly don't think that warrants the widespread use of masks in the healthy population. So that's why there's no recommendation yet from public health about that, or at least we would discourage it.
The challenging times at Landmark Village in Sarnia continue. The retirement community is now dealing with 14 positive cases of COVID-19, 5 among staff and 9 residents, including 4 residents who have passed away. John Scotland is the CEO of Steeves and Rozema, the owners of Landmark Village, and John joins me now. John, some clarification for the public. Some people maybe think this is a nursing home, but it's not. How would you characterize Landmark Village?
So it is a licensed retirement home, and within retirement homes, there's quite a difference in how they provide services. This is an independent living, so while we have a number of seniors living there, there are very typically active seniors, so they're socially engaged. They go and come from the home. They have apartments. And we provide very minimal care at this location, which is in contrast to some of the other locations we have. So as far as care goes to those who pay an extra amount, we do offer some wellness programs. Blood pressure testing, some medication management and monitoring. But by and large, again, these are very independent seniors living at this home.
John, how is everyone doing there right now?
It's tough, They're courageous. We've got great staff. They have great relationships with our residents, and it's hard for our residents in particular. They're sequestered in their apartments, and that's difficult. I know that we're all experiencing that to some degree, but the added uncertainty of what's happening in the home, the loss of some of their friends to this, and I'm sure they're all anxious, as are their friends and families.
You must be proud of the staff.
Absolutely, and I have to, in our long-term care homes and those retirement homes where we offer enriched care, this is everyday life, right? So long-term care. We're used to flu outbreaks and managing those processes. This home is known for its independence. It's fine dining. It's restaurant-style meal service. It's social interactions and engagements. And many of you listeners may remember the Uptown Funk video that this group did, 2 years ago. If you look it up online, it had 56,000 hits or more. Very vibrant group. It's particularly more difficult for this group because their specialty was hospitality. It wasn't care, and now they're brought into that care service position.
What steps are you taking to minimize further spread?
Well, first and foremost, we're working very closely under the direction of public health to ensure that we're taking all the appropriate steps and precautions. Most important of those are the isolation, sequestering of the residents in their own suites. That's where they're safest. Now, interaction with our staff is only when those staff have the appropriate personal protective equipment, the PPEs, and that's being used by staff throughout the home, and it's all based on their tasks. So the public health unit has been very specific on what protective equipment to wear for each staff when they're doing particular tasks, and we're following that to the letter. So tray service deliveries, it's two staff delivering tray, one to open the door with a gloved hand, wearing a mask, the other one to deliver the tray. The residents, enter another part of the unit. The tray is brought in. That person's wearing protective equipment. They leave, and then that same person that opened the door is the one that's closing the door. So there's no touching the door handle or any other surfaces. And it's like that for care services, except it's a higher degree of protection for the person providing that care service, and that's for that person's, the staff member's protection, and the protection of the resident that are providing care to.
We saw some signs posted on the building over the past 48 hours, some messages of support from members of the public. That must have been uplifting to you, the staff, and everyone involved.
I think honestly it was a real morale booster. Someone snapped a picture of it and texted to me the night, I suspect not long after it went up. It's dark and the outside lights are on. It certainly lifted my spirits. It was great to see it picked up in the media as a positive thing. We'll see some positive things at this difficult time. And I even see Sarnia Police Service picked it up and tweeted it out, or perhaps it was on Facebook. It got several retweets and several very positive comments. Again, it was great to see the public come together in support of the staff and the residents in the home.
Thanks for joining us, and please pass along our best wishes to the staff and stay safe.
Certainly will, and we just like to reach out and say thank you to the community for the support, and also continue to recognize our staff. They really are heroes.
That was John Scotland, the CEO of Steeves and Rozema, the owners of Landmark Village in Sarnia. Stay tuned, more to come. You are watching Sarnia Lambton Daily on your TV. Back on Sarnia Lambton Daily here on your TV, many organizations in Sarnia Lambton have had to adjust, and in some cases adjust on the fly, as a pandemic meant the offices are shut down, programs had to be adjusted. Let's check in with Sarnia Lambton Rebound Executive Director Carrie McEachran. And Carrie, your organization is no different. We're having to make adjustments, used to seeing clients face to face, but I'm sure your staff and your entire team have been very agile now to make changes and still service the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Our physical locations have all been closed down, as many others, and our team is still working behind the scenes, doing, we're looking at virtual ways we can be providing our regular programs to get those up and going again, and doing daily check-ins, and the hub is it's being used on a daily basis. So the team's working really hard behind the scenes to make things happen for the youth.
You talk about the check-ins, and I've got to think even that, as simple to the average person as that might sound, must be huge when there's a lot more isolation because of outlets being closed, even places like malls and things like that. I've got to think even just checking in with youth in some cases is huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's huge. The youth that we have been currently already serving are getting regular check-ins, and they've built those relationships with the staff that they are supported by at Rebound. So it's really important to keep those connections with those youth. And we're finding through all of this, we're actually seeing a lot more newer youth, new to Rebound, giving us a call and reaching out and just needing that social interaction and those check-ins. Just for us, it's just an ear for them to talk to, because this is a challenge for everybody, but I just can't imagine what it's like for kids right now.
And are you finding with your staff, that's where, whether it's a phone call or whether it's FaceTime, we're doing this by video conference as well, just that reach out, and I'm sure where before it was, okay, let's meet somewhere, let's sit down, come into the office, where now it's like, no, we can be effective through technology.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, it was really quick. We have an amazing team that just jumped into action and looking at ways that we can be supporting youth, knowing that they need it more than ever right now. So we've got the hub is doing virtual check-ins, phone check-ins. They're on site once a day doing check-ins through the door, and our lounge after school program. That's another program where we have youth that really rely on that interaction. So we're playing with ways to do that. We've been doing some live chats with youth on a daily basis. And so again, every day we're looking at different ways to stay connected.
Is one of the big challenges right now, you talk about after school programs, but of course there is no such thing as school from a physical location standpoint right now. So there's some youth that sort of need that interaction and have those additional demands from those hours of 8:30 until 3.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. That's so again, adjusting the hours. We're not doing the programs after school anymore. It's, during the day when youth are really needing it. So numbers are really high right now.
What challenges are you hearing from them, and of course through your staff as well, that they're kind of dealing with? What are the things that the youth are sort of, we're all dealing with a different way of life right now. What challenges do you find they're dealing with?
What we're hearing a lot is, youth being stuck at home with families. And I have teenagers, so I know exactly what they're going through. Really just feeling isolated, the sense of isolation from your friends. It's such a key thing in that age group. And we're hearing a lot of, isolation. Mental health as well. As adults, we have our challenges every day, and there's those fears of the unknown. So, the youth are really, really feeling it. So it's just check-ins, getting their mind off of whatever's happening in the world right now, and having those familiar faces of the youth and the staff that they built relationships with.
How's your staff doing? Because it's obviously a totally different change for them. You talked about they jumped into action, but now as we go into sort of week 2 and week 3, it has to be a case where, and they're of course dealing with their own family situations as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as in all social services, you're in the field for a reason, and it's that human connection. So as much as our first priority is the youth and ensuring that they have that connection and they're being taken care of. But our staff are really feeling it too. And they really thrive off of that daily, regular connection with the youth that they're supporting. And so we're doing continual regular check-ins. Zoom has become such an amazing thing. We get 33 staff on a Zoom call once a week. And just really keeping a close eye on how everybody's doing. We've got some amazing community partners. We have St. Clair Child and Youth and CMHA and others who, have really stepped up and are providing some mental health supports too, and offered any type of support they can to our staff as needed.
Carrie, before we wrap up, if some youth are seeing this, whether on TV or through our online portals as well, what message would you have for them if they're kind of feeling a little down? Maybe they're not currently clients of Rebound, but just not having the greatest of days or the greatest situation, or so some feel like this is kind of like Groundhog Day, day in and day out here. What message would you have for them?
I think just, hang in there. We're all in this together. We're going to get through this, and don't do it alone. There are so many resources out there right now. Well, there's always been resources out there, but reach out, whether that be, St. Clair Child and Youth, CMHA, Rebound. I mean, there's always somebody answering the phone. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. Don't do this alone. None of us can do it alone.
Very quickly before we go as well, wanted to wrap it up with, I understand, talk about people coming together, and we've seen the new United Way Compassion Fund. Rebound was one of the benefactors of that. Perfect example where donors, United Way, Rebound, all working together. That's got to be rewarding for Rebound.
So rewarding. We have, and I always say it, we have the most amazing community here in Sarnia, Lambton. And, United Way does such amazing things for this community, and the donors that give to United Way, we're really, really grateful. Like I was saying earlier, we applied for this fund. It was a quick turnaround, and it's going towards helping youth at the hub and helping Rebound really get our programs up and going virtually. So we're really grateful for that.
It's great to hear everyone working together. Carrie, stay safe to you and your family and all the Rebound staff, and we'll check in with you again soon.
Thanks, Terry. You too.
Welcome back to Sarnia Lambton Daily. Well, throughout the program, as you've seen us here on your TV, we want to bring you both positive but also tips when it comes to mental health in dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic. Lauren Van Ewyk is a social worker with the Family Counselling Centre and joins me now. And Lauren, you certainly dealt with a lot of people over the years, but even more, I'm sure, during this pandemic. What are you hearing? What are you finding in terms of how people are getting through this?
Well, first of all, thank you, Terry, for offering this opportunity for us to discuss. Certainly recently we've seen some increase in anxiety regarding the feeling of isolation that people are experiencing, as well as a little bit of some feelings of being overwhelmed because we've been a little bit thrust into some roles that we've not always been really comfortable with. And so certainly we're hearing that people are wondering exactly how to negotiate this new journey. We've had some increasing calls, which is, we're very thankful that our distress line has been able to accomplish reaching those people, as well as the telechecks. So certainly we want to put it out there that there's access to help here in Sarnia Lambton, and we want to encourage people to do so.
No, it's great to see that people have reached out, and we understand some additional funding came through from the United Way's Compassion Fund to help that out as well. So everybody working together, definitely, it helps a long way. Let's talk about the social isolation factor and people that, maybe before were used to doing their own thing to a certain extent, but now even the options they had in some cases for reaching out or, going for a walk along, the bridge or certain things like that are, more limited, and going to the mall, all those things are limited. What sort of tips would you have for those people that are maybe dealing with that situation where they already live on their own and now feel maybe even more isolated?
Well, it's an opportunity to become very creative. So for instance, we have some friends, and my parents are involved in a card game group. And so they have decided to play cards individually, and then they add up their totals. And of course, the losing team has had to make the others breakfast in bed. It's just an example of how we can be really creative to still retain some of those relationships, the humor that those relationships bring, that gives a reassurance. So for those people that are experiencing that overwhelming feeling of isolation, it's time to get really creative.
Now, what about on the other side of it? We talk about the social isolation, but then there's those people who are not used to spending so much time together. They had a routine where maybe the kids were off at school, parents were at work, at least one of them. They had their own time or their own things, but now for from first thing in the morning to when they go to bed at night, they're mostly together. And I have to think that throws off the routines and makes things interesting as well. What sort of tips do you have for those people?
Okay, so absolutely. I am a mama of 6 kids, and I can tell you that life is a little bit different. The idea that we're suddenly homeschooling our children, that's not even actually entirely true. Homeschoolers go out and they have lots of opportunity to get out. So suddenly when all those routines have changed. One of the really important things I want to encourage people to do is take some time, book it off in the calendar if you need to. If you're sitting down with your partner or your children, you're going to look at that day and allow each person to have some time for just them. So for the mama of the house, it might look like we're going to go for a bath time, or we're going to go and be in our special area where we're going to read a book, and that special area is just for that person. Now that special area might be just the corner of a couch with a hot coffee and a blanket, but that's that person's area and it needs to be guarded. And so we really want to ensure that families work together so that each person gets some time to themselves, a chance to renew, a chance to collect their thoughts throughout the day. One of the other things we want to do is ensure that our expectations are in line with what we're facing right now. So if your expectation is to suddenly school your children and have really effective schooling moments, it might not be a really realistic expectation. It's great to put that effort in, but we need to show each other a whole lot of grace that we are facing a very different situation than what our entire world has faced really for some time. So giving each other some of that individual space is very important. Ensuring that our expectations are in line with what we're really able to provide is another really important aspect. The other thing, particularly for parents of children, I want to encourage you to understand that children's behavior is really the signal for the emotions going on behind it. So when we have children who are suddenly becoming destructive or challenging in their behavior, or maybe significantly withdrawn, that behavior is really telling us that there's some emotional issue, concerns going on. Perhaps they're scared, perhaps they're frustrated and missing friends. And so we want to be sure that as parents, we connect with our children, we collect them, particularly before we correct them. So that attachment, that desire to really meet our child and figure out what's going on behind the behavior, that's what adults do. That's what caring, loving parents do. We meet the child and to figure out what's going on behind that behavior so we can make sure that their needs are met.
Lauren,
and sometimes,
Lauren, I'm just going to jump in and just because we're running a little short on time, some great advice. What I wanted to ask you though was, we've heard people doing it where, go through your phone. I'm holding mine up right now. I know you can't see me, and go through your text and maybe find someone that you haven't talked to in a little while just to reach out, and you're kind of checking in on them. But what tips would you have? Because there's that kind of, what language would you use to not pry? You're checking in to make sure they're okay or reconnecting, but you don't necessarily want to pry or force a conversation if they're not willing to talk right now.
For sure, but you know what? That is excellent advice. We have a number of neighbors in our area, and we just send a quick text and say, hey, how's it going today? Is there anything you guys need? Any new activities? You can offer those services to them, and then you'll respect when they answer back, respecting that answer. When you envision yourself walking down the street and meeting your neighbors, that's the same type of conversation beginning that you want to have with them over text when you greet them. Hey, how are you doing? Just checking in with you, letting you know we're okay, and allowing them to go. Now, if our neighbor or our friend texts us back and says, hey man, I'm having a really rough day, it's okay for you to be that person to say, validate that emotion and say, this is tough. And then encourage them to reach out to a professional if they are needing it, if you feel that they need it. And certainly our website, Family Counselling Centre, as well as St. Clair Child and Youth, you can go to those websites and find the contact information to ensure that people are receiving the services they need.
Well, Lauren, some great information. We appreciate you taking the time. We will check back in with you down the road because we think this is going to be going on for a little while, but we'll certainly keep in touch, and certainly you and your family stay safe there.
Thank you, and to you and your listeners as well. Thanks, Terry.
That's Lauren Van Ewyk, a social worker, works with the Family Counselling Centre in Sarnia. That'll do it for Sarnia Lambton Daily for this Thursday. We will see you tomorrow.